the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
If you are ever fortunate enough to spend time in southern Utah, you will be amazed. If you have spent time in southern Utah, you know that I'm correct. There's so much to see and do. There's one place, though, that is off the beaten path in one of the national parks that gets less attention. It's called Capitol Reef National Park. And in that park, if you drive to the end of the scenic route, you will come to an area that's called the Pioneer Register Hike. It sounds like a funny name, and when I first heard it, I didn't know what it was talking about, but in reality, it's exactly what the name says. You hike through a flat canyon with tall sandstone walls to either side of you, and when you travel far enough, you will see carved in the walls above you the names of pioneers who traveled that canyon. Their names are about 15 or 20 feet above the canyon floor. They were carved as early as the mid-1800s when pioneers came through on their covered wagons. You will see clearly carved the names of Joan and Quinby Stewart, Isaac Hayes, not that one, James Allerton and Sam Gifford, to name a few. They must have been very encouraging for travelers that came later to see these markings and know that they were on the right path. Christians talk about being on the right path. There have been stories written about following the way of Jesus. The most famous is probably the book of Pilgrim's Progress. The writer of Hebrews calls Jesus the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. He is saying that Jesus walked the path first, and we are following in that way. We're not the first to follow Jesus. There have been many who came before us, some of them carving their names on canyon walls, so to speak, to give us encouragement as we seek to follow. Our reading begins by telling us that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So who is he referring to? And just from that reading, that isn't enough to give it to you. We have to look to chapter 11 of Hebrews, the chapter immediately preceding ours. Many of you know that 1 Corinthians 13 has a nickname called the love chapter. Hebrews chapter 11 has a nickname, the faith chapter. It lists many names of the first pioneers of the faith. Some that preceded Jesus, Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Rahab, and many others. And then the writer kind of sums it up with some of these words, bringing it closer to home. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released, so they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. Since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. That'll make you step back. Only together with us would they be made perfect. We are in this together. Not just us. Not just all the Sunday morning folks. All of us. We're connected to those who've gone before, and we're made perfect together. So this underscores how important it is for us to continue our journey following the path of Jesus. The writer is referring to this as the race. And we're even given some suggestions how to run this race and keep up our endurance till the end. Just like those other pioneers who faithfully followed Jesus, let us also lay aside every weight. Don't carry with you things that will weigh you down and make it more likely that you will tire out and not finish the course. I bet those pioneers that marked their names on those canyon walls in southern Utah spent some difficult hours or days figuring out what would be included in their covered wagon before they left. I also imagine that with more difficulty, they decided what they would leave behind, not put in those wagons. They didn't want their weight in those wagons to prevent them from reaching their destination. We look at Judas tonight in that gospel reading, who did not look to Jesus when it counted. He was weighed down with other concerns. The path of sacrifice and love was too scary. There were sins that blocked his path. We need to let go of the things that will prevent us from following Jesus to the end. Run the race completely. Our anxieties and our other ambitions weigh us down and make the journey too difficult. It kind of goes on and says, don't let other sins be the trees or rivers that block our paths. Instead, look to Jesus and see where he left signs for us. Look at the faith of the saints who have gone before or who are still with us. They haven't signed their names on the walls of St. Thomas, but they have left their mark. And they've left signs for the direction that they've walked. And they encourage us to be strong and grow in faith. This time, right now, during this week, more than any other, we have the path of Jesus right before us. Tomorrow, we'll remember the Last Supper. Tonight, we looked at his betrayal. Friday, the cross will fill our vision. We'll pause on Saturday and reflect on death and hope. And then there's Sunday. Sunday's coming. Amen.
Amen.